Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is To Back or Not To Back, where we're going to be going through a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, talking about the games, the campaigns, the pledge levels, the stretch goals, the add-ons, all of that and more, and of course, should you back them or not. As usual, though, we are going to start with our Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is the segment where we go ahead and remind you that there are a lot of currently available games that you can get at much better prices, at cheaper prices, available now, without having to wait, with more reviews, and today's one is actually a particularly sore topic, and that's Ascending Empire's Zenith Edition. This is one of those reminders, because we are about to go through a bunch of campaigns, and some of them are definitely worth backing, some of them are compelling, some of them are interesting. There are some today that I will be backing as well, but sometimes there's a good reminder that you should definitely totally be waiting. Ascending Empires in particular was a game that when it was on crowdfunding was $110 for the Zenith Edition right here. It was $110 plus shipping to go ahead and get your hands in it. And now it's available for less than the price of the game plus shipping, which is even more. You can go ahead and get it for $105 over on Game Nerds right now for, if I'm not mistaken, the exact same game. So this is one of those times where you got punished for effectively backing the game on crowdfunding. Well, to be clear, there are other reasons to back games, up to and including supporting the creator, so if that was your goal, yes, that's definitely, you still achieved that goal. But if your goal was feeling rewarded for backing it on crowdfunding, this is one of those times where you weren't. And this happens, it happens more often than I'd like, which is why I have this series, which is why I talk about to back or not to back. Does it make sense to get games or not? This is not just general awareness around crowdfunding, this is also, does it make sense to get it now? Does it make sense to get it at retail later? Does it make sense to get it in the secondhand market? What is the best way to put your own money to work in terms of getting the most games at the most affordable price point? Anyways, with that little, and I guess if you want Ascending Empires, this is a good time to go ahead and get your hands in it because it is the cheaper way to get your hands in it with less risk and with more reviews available. Anyways, moving on from there, we're going to move on to, well, actual crowdfunding, starting off with the South Tigris Trilogy expansions. This is coming to you from Sean Phillips and Garfield Games. This is a series of 3 games, three expansions, as well as a kind of mini Moon Saga campaign that links together the games. The South Tigris series is the newest series from Garfield Games. They've had all the West Kingdoms, they had the Raiders, the North Sea, the West Kingdoms, and now the South Tigris. That's the current trilogies that they have, and South Tigris has finished that trilogy, I guess. They have all 3 of the games. They have Wayfarers, Inventors, and Scholars of the South Tigris, and now they have 3 expansions for it. They have the Tides and Trades, something I can't read them from over here. The Tides of Trade over here. They have the Body of Books, and then we have the Era of Experts. 3 different expansions for the 3 different games in the South Tigris system. But they also have the South Tigris Moon Saga. This is a little mini expansion thing that kind of links all 3 games together in an ongoing campaign of the base games and then the base games with the expansion. So you have an opportunity to play through this 6-chapter arc, 3 base games with expansions as you go through a linked series of branching decisions in this. So I don't know exactly fully how it plays out, but it is interesting to see like these games linked together in a broader sense. I don't usually see that with separate games. One time I actually did. If you ever played this way back in the day, the GIF series had an interesting mechanism where you could have little mini games of your abstract game could be interrupted to play a full GIF series game with the related piece. It was insane. It was stupid. I don't recommend it. This might actually be good. I have no idea. But it's interesting when you see games that aren't actually meant to be linked together, at least in gameplay purposes, linked together in gameplay purposes. Anyways, as far as the cost for all of this, the expansions are going to run you around $114 for the expansions, and that's plus an additional around $12, $13 in shipping as well, and so that's going to run you, what is that, $127 or so for the games, which do keep in mind that if you get the games, and you do get some extras for backing on crowdfunding, but if you get the games at retail, they are roughly, I believe, $27 for each expansion, although I have no idea how much the Moon Saga campaign would be, which means you're looking at around $127 versus around $90. You are paying more, but you're also getting the Moon Saga expansion. And in general, Garfield Games, like they're very transparent. Like, kudos to them. They always talk about it. Why back now? Here's the big question. As always, we encourage you to purchase from whichever outlet works best for you. I am always a fan of the Garfield's straight, direct transparency. They don't engage in FOMO. For some people, it's a good deal, depending on your access to, well, any games. And for some people, it's less of a good deal, but they're like, hey, here's the game, here's the campaign. We do not try to push you to back if it's not the right place. Get our games whatever way works best for you, or not at all. So I always love their non-pushy way of doing crowdfunding. So that's basically what we got over here. And I guess, as usual, for Garphill games, my recommendation is, if you are focused on what's the cheapest way to get your hands on them, especially if you're being selective as to what you are getting, then retail is almost always the best option. If you don't mind paying a little bit more to get it extra, to get it earlier and not having to worry, and specifically the Moon Saga, like, I imagine the Garphill games are popular enough that the Moon Saga will be available in retail, but that is the question mark from the rest of them. So there is always that slight question mark. But again, if your main concern is bottom line, then ultimately I do recommend waiting for retail. On the other hand, if you don't mind paying a little extra just to guarantee things, this is not the worst way to get the game. And that is going to be the South Tigris Trilogy expansions. Moving on, we have Star Explorer from Queen Games. Star Explorer is the newest game in their Family and Friends line. The game that, oh my gosh, Dabualo is in. The Dabualo is generally well-received polyomino game. And this is a game of charting the cosmos. Because you're going to have a little dial here, a little board that the board is rotating. Each of the rounds, as you go through, I believe, 6 rounds of play, the board is rotating slowly, which means as you chart these stars, you have more and more both hidden and revealed that you're trying to take into account as you connect things to get as many points as possible across those 6 rounds. It plays in 30 minutes, very accessible, quick game, and as well as that, you could actually combine 2 copies of the game to go ahead and play the game with up to 8 players. So there is a pledge level where you can get 2 copies of the game, and yes, that could be for you and a friend, or it could be for the, just to play an 8-player game. Or I guess if you and your friends share a game group often enough, then you could have it for you and your friend and to play an 8-player game. All these options are open to you. The world is your oyster. Have at it. But then we have $29 for the game over here with an MSRP of $40. Please note that shipping, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was around $12. Shipping over here, the USA was $12 for 1 copy of the game, meaning your $29 is really $41 on a $40 MSRP, which if you've watched this before, you know that MSRP does not translate into final retail cost, which means that you're paying more for the game than you would at retail. But wait, there's more. We have more coming in a second. We'll get there right there in a second. But first, we have the Star Explorers 2 copies over here for $49. And again, the shipping is going to run you $14. So you're paying, what is that, $63 on MSRP of $80. Now you're already within the range of, okay, it might actually be a good deal, might not. And then because it's Queen Games, you have all these big box options you can buy on the side, which I won't be heavily going into detail on the individual break-even point in all of these because it's a lot of pledge levels and a lot of work. But basically, if you want more stuff, the more worth it is to you. But also, the important part is they have this over here, the 1 free game with every pledge level. This over here, and by the way, this was not like super obvious, I almost scrolled right past this, but there's a free game with every pledge level. If you back at the earlier 2 options, you get an Alhambra roll and write or the Escape roll and write as a surprise option. And then if you back at the high levels, you get Dragon Quest or Finish Line as well. Which, again, if you don't care about those games at all, then you're basically signing up for something that you might be able to turn around and sell for $5, $10. If you do want those games, this does add more to the reasons to go ahead and back. As usual with Queen Games, my usual recommendation is the more you want, the more worth it is. The less you want, the less worth it is. Their campaigns generally, the more you actually benefit from getting a bunch of stuff, the better a deal it is. Versus if you want select things. Like if you just want 1 copy of Star Explorer, even with the expansion that you're getting, you're still paying enough that honestly I still recommend waiting for retail, even though it is a slightly better deal once you take into account that expansion. But either way, that's Star Explorer over here, and from there we're going to move on to another space game, Twinkle Twinkle. But this is actually Twinkle Twinkle, Merchants of Andromeda, and Waddle. I want to say Waddle, but it's just Waddle. 2,472 backers, $187,000 raised, 3 days to go on this campaign from Allplay, with Twinkle Twinkle being the main feature piece over here, but we also have Merchants of Andromeda, which is a reprint of Merchants of Amsterdam. I want to say it's a reprint of Reina Knizia's Merchants of Amsterdam, and Waddle, which I actually don't know if it's a reprint of anything. If it is, I missed it. But Twinkle Twinkle is the main game centerpiece over here. Twinkle Twinkle is a tile drafting game, acrylic tiles, which you're going to be gathering these various things that go into space, stars and planets and space stations and black holes and all those various things, wormholes, and basically throwing them into a little mini galaxy, a 5x4 mini galaxy that you're creating, trying to maximize your score because every type of piece scores differently. Stars are the bulk of the operation, but then all the other special pieces score in different ways, and you're trying to figure out, well, how to optimize and maximize your score in the game. You're also going to have variable scoring sides that give you different ways to score those pieces. So, black holes will score one way in one game and one way in another game, although it's really more of a advanced and simple mode. There's not a huge differential to the way they play, but minor differentials to the way they play in the game. You're going to do that until you fill up your board and see who won. Merchants of Andromeda, like I said already, is a reprint of Merchants of Amsterdam, and this is I think it's called a Dutch auction. This is a Dutch auction game which players are going to be trying to watch the timer count down as they eventually decide 20, 19, 18, 17, all the tension raising slowly, and eventually at 15 someone hits it and boom, they're buying something. So basically you're waiting for the timer to count down, and then you're buying it at the price point that the timer is, which puts a little incentive of how low can we go before we go ahead and someone buys that piece. Meanwhile, Waddle is a game but trying to create groupings of penguins around various lake pieces as you sequentially score in the game from one lake to the next, setting yourself up for the current lake or the next lake as you try to go ahead and surround them most efficiently than the other players. As usual with all play, all these games come with little mini expansions. We have Twinkle Twinkle that has the acrylic standees upgrade over here, as well as a full expansion that gives you a bunch of modules, and I believe the alien race expansion. Let me see if I can scroll down to where they are over here. Waddle, Twinkle Twinkle. No, where's they have all these things over here. Let me just scroll down. Not this one. Nope, not that. We have nope. Scroll. Here we go. We have the How I Wonder. That's just cute. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. How I Wonder What You Are. We have the How I Wonder expansion giving you a bunch of modules, as well as the mini expansion giving you aliens in the game, and then the free upgrade of giving you these acrylic standees. Now every copy of the game ever has acrylic tiles. The upgrade is for the acrylic standees instead, as well as possibly getting the expansions if you want that. And there's a scoring app as well where you can simply scan your board and take a picture, and it'll tell you exactly how you scored, which is pretty cool, honestly. Not the first game to have done it, but I'm always impressed when a game does do it. Then from there, we have Merchants of Andromeda with the components, the expansion. Here we go. There's the expansion down here you're going to be getting in the game. The Bureaucrats and Anarchists expansion, doubling the number of scoring events and senators in the galaxy. And then from here, in Waddle, you have the Waddle expansion, is the Orcas and Icefall expansion, giving you 3 mini expansions to be used together or separately in the game. And that's all of what you have over here. As far as pledge levels, we have over here, we have the Waddle pledge for $19, giving you a copy of the game Waddle. We have Merchants of Andromeda for $39, Twinkle Twinkle for $39, and these start getting into the Bling expansions, Twinkle Twinkle with expansions for $58, the all-in gameplay for $97, and that's going to give you all the various expansions and everything, as well as the medallion for future campaigns. The all-play medallion is something that basically is redeemable for tiny games from their library. And that's basically what we have over here. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value, all of that. In general, with all play, I usually say the exact same thing, and I don't see a reason to change that today. If you want all 3 of these games, getting it on crowdfunding is the way to go. If you want all the games, then you're getting it at the best price point because you're getting all those extras. They're harder to get. It's just in general, if you want all 3 games, getting everything on crowdfunding is the cheapest, best way to do it. As soon as you want 1 or 2 games, at that point, waiting for retail or convention or secondhand market often can be the better way to go ahead and get your hands in it, because the best price point is almost always reserved for the all-in, for all expansions, all promos, all extras. That's where you get the best bang for your buck on these games. All play has a very reliable reprint history, so the games are frequently available, the extras are frequently available, so really it comes down to the kind of that all or less all choice as far as what you want. But if you do want their games are very accessible, easy to play. I don't think I've ever not enjoyed an all-play game. It's usually a question of, do I just like it passing, do I like it a lot, or do I really, really like it? Anyways, moving on from there, we have A Place for All My Books. A Place for All My Books from Smirk and Dagger, their highest crowdfunding campaign to date, which is not a surprise. Why? Because of the mass appeal of a game about collecting books. A Place for All My Books is, well, a game about collecting books. 13,000 backers, $726,000 raised, 3 days to go. This is a game which you're going to alternate between organizing and arranging the books in your collection before you build up enough of your social battery in order to make your way into town and then go ahead and figure out the various little options of how to get more books from the bookstore to the library, the village shop, all these various things to go ahead and get more books so you can bring them back home and then continue to organize those books. Because unfortunately, going out with other people drains your social battery, which makes sense. None of us actually want to be around other people. We're just here for the solo games. By the way, there is a solo mode for this game, which is fitting because a game like this with this theme kind of should definitely have a solo mode. I think you're playing against, is it Penelope? You're playing against someone. I don't remember who it is, but let's scroll down and find out. But anyways, that's the basic idea of the game. It's organizing your books and then trying to gather books with your social battery and trying to optimize around that puzzle. Let me find the little social person you're playing against. Where is she? Where is she? She's Penelope. I was right. It's Penelope Everready is your little rival with 14 rival cards in the solo mode of the game. Now there's 2 main pledge levels for this game. There's the Trade Edition, which is basically the retail edition of the game that will be available in the future for $35. But you're also getting free exclusive bookmarks from this campaign. You're getting a set of 4 bookmarks to back it in this campaign. That's available even in the retail edition of the game over here. And then you also have the bookcase edition for $50. That is the more deluxe upgrade edition of the game that will be available in, like, trade shows and their website and things like that, but less readily available than the standard version of A Place for All My Books. As far as shipping's going to run you, again, depends on where you are, but $17 for the standard or deluxe version of the game, which does mean at the standard price point, you're almost certainly overpaying for the game compared to retail, once you factor in the price of the game, the price of shipping, and those bookmarks are nice, but I don't imagine the game will hold its value at the retail level. On the other hand, at the deluxe level, the bookcase edition level, this does have that mass market appeal that I do think this has a decent chance of holding its value. It's not a guarantee. It's always trickier to gauge the market when you're talking about something that has some degree of mass market audience, but I do think this one, I think it's appealing to gamers and non-gamers alike. From people who've played the game, I've heard that they've enjoyed it. I have not played it myself, and so I do think that the deluxe version of the game is more likely to overall hold its value. Not a guarantee, but more likely. Moving on, we have Casinopolis, a solo and cooperative city deck building game, not deck building, I don't know why I said deck building, a city building game. 1,600 backers, $40,000 raised, 5 days to go, coming to you from Button Shy Games, and is the 4th game in the Sprawlopolis series. We have Sprawlopolis, Agropolis, Naturopolis, and now Casinopolis, all giving you the same basic gameplay of laying cards together, overlaying in parts, adjacent at other points, trying to optimize around 3 different scoring conditions to get the best score. You see, every card has a scoring condition on the back, which means if you're playing with an 18-card deck, and any 3 cards could be the scoring cards, and the rest of the 15 are what you're building with, that's a whole lot of variability in this game system. That's the core structure of all 4 of these games. Casinopolis, though, does something very different. It gives you the concept of the strip. The longest row that you build is going to be the strip, and that will have game scoring ramifications for various cards that you play, but then also it has this kind of concept of the larger the bet, the more is at stake. When you have these scoring cards, depending on where it is in the scoring line, left, center, or right, you're going to be worth 1, 2, or 3 points for each of the things that you're doing. If you score a point for linked colors, it could be worth 1 point for each linked color, 2 linked colors, or 3 for linked colors, and so even the exact same 3 scoring cards will have very different ramifications and implications as far as how you want to play the game and arrange your cards in order to optimize your scoring. And that's a new concept that we're first seeing in Casinopolis, and it's both nicely thematic to the game, as well as a nice twist on the gameplay that I really, really enjoy. I think Sprawlopolis is still my go-to favorite, although that might just be partially nostalgia at this point, but Casinopolis is not my least favorite theme. Honestly, I find the farms the most boring, so theme-wise, my theme ranking is going to be Naturopolis, Sprawlopolis, Casinopolis, Agropolis. Mechanically ranking, the ranking is going to be Sprawlopolis, Casinopolis, Naturopolis, Agropolis. So Agropolis loses on all fronts, and yet I still have it in my collection because it's still just a good variation on the system. The base game is going to run you $12 for the base game. That's going to give you the expansion as well. It's just generally what Button Shy does. They give you the expansion at the price of the base game over here, but you are of course paying shipping as well. So the retail price is $16, you save $4, but you're paying shipping, but you are getting expansion. Generally the regular notes I give for almost every single Button Shy campaign is if you just want to go ahead and get the game, this is often the best way to get your hands on the game, to guarantee access, all of that. But they very rarely hold their value, which just makes sense when you're talking about a game this cheap. It's usually hard to turn around and sell your Sprawlopolis or Casinopolis game for $16 to someone after the fact. So it's not one that holds its value, but it is often the best and easiest way to get your hands on the game, outside of the luck of sheer convenience of having to pick up various Button Shy games. Like, you can always find that one, person selling a stack of Button Shy games and get a good deal, but from a reliability standpoint, this is often the best way to do it. Moving on, we have Aventuria, the adventure board game, Chalices of Power, and Curse of the Desert. 386,000 euro raised, 1,800 backers, 8 days left to go. This is taking you from Lucius Spill. This is taking the theme of the Dark Eye, the Sprachte Augur, something like that. I'm trying to the Augur is, I know Augur is, I think it's Sprachte, but I could be wrong. Either way, the Dark Eye, this is the World of the Dark Eye, which is this RPG universe from Ulysses Bill, and this is the board game version of that. This is not an RPG. You do not have to have played the RPG. You don't have to have played the first edition of the game. In fact, this edition of the game is not really compatible with the first edition. They kind of say it's like loosely compatible. You can do things that you can kind of mix things up if you wanted to, but it's not fully intended to be compatible. There are changes and adjustments to the system, so you kind of have to hodgepodge it to make it work, just in case you're wondering as far as compatibility goes. They also talk about the key changes from 1 to 2, but all of this doesn't really tell you what the game is, what are you doing. This is a fully cooperative game. I say fully cooperative because, if I'm not mistaken, the original edition was cooperative and competitive. This one is fully cooperative, focusing on that aspect of the game as you choose your hero, grab your deck, and then go through a series of games, either a single shot or a linked series of games, as you upgrade your character, upgrade their cards, and slowly get more and more powerful as you go on these adventures that all giving you different thematic elements to wade your way through, different points of trying to engage with the story of the game, and you go here and you rescue a family, and then you see the captain, and you either betray the captain or not, and all these will have game ramifications for how the game actually sets up on your table as you're ready to play it. And then once it's set up on your table, from there you're going through a hand management system of trying to figure out which cards in your hand are going to be used for your energy, for being able to pay for other cards, or alternatively, which of them are going to be actually used as the abilities and equipment and all those things that will help you through the game. So it has one of those systems, if you play games like Primal or Marvel Champions, or Arcana for that matter, where you're constantly choosing between what's going to be your resources and what's going to be your actual abilities. I generally like that little twist of pushing you to give things up that you enjoy in order to have an edge against your opponents. I like that concept in the game. Anyways, that's the basic idea of the game itself. As far as the pledge levels, we have the Curse of the Desert for €40. This is going to be the solo curse box, so this is just a solo play game. This is a box intended for solo play only. We have the Chalice of Power for €80. We have Endurium, which is both those for €115, and then for €150 we get all basically the all, not the all-in. We also get the Team Challenge, the Summoner of Elements, and the Island of the Mighty Lords, and the Sign of the Manticore as well. And then lastly, we have the actual all-in. See what's adding here? It's actually adding the Curse of the Desert for the Titanium pledge. Sorry about that. That gives you the Champion of Mischief, not the Curse of the Desert. The full all-in gives you that solo expansion as well, solo standalone expansion as well. That's basically what we have over here. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? Honestly, it's a little harder to say on this one. The last time they did a campaign around the Aventuria board game was, well, a very, very, very long time ago, and so it's looking at the second-hand market, I can find things from back then that seem to have held their value back then, but a long time has passed, and much more recent options definitely don't seem to hold their value overall. And so it is in this hard place where I'm judging something from, campaigns from like 8 years ago or however long it's been, and that does make it a little bit harder to be accurate in determining whether people want this or to what extent. My instinctive guess, based on the current second-hand market and based on the prices and based on the current prices, is that it is less likely to fully hold its value, although there definitely still is demand for it, so you'll probably get some, or if not most of it back. Moving on, we have Grail Games 2025 Pocket Collection. 821 backers, 7 days to go. We have 3 small games that are available for reasonable price points, but better price points if you're getting all 3 together. You see, you have the complete collection for $27. That's going to be plus shipping as well, so you want to factor that in. And then we have the individual games, which are going to run you either $11 each or alternatively $9 each for Tango. Tango's a little bit cheap on the cheaper side. As far as the games over here, we have 3 games. We have the, let's go through it. We have From Hand. From Hand is going to be a trick-taking game all around various farm animals, focused a bit more on the trick-taking, bidding, and laughter. We have the Fjords over here, which is going to be a tile-laying game in the veins of the Fjords game, the bigger box game, but abstracted to a slightly smaller game. And then we have a 2-player trick-taking game. That's going to be Tango over here. Tango's a thinky 2-player trick-taking game specifically instead. And again, those are available for $9, $11, or $11, or alternatively, if you want all 3 of them, it's available for $27 for all 3, but you are going to have to pay for shipping as well. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value on shipping costs over here will be around $13 for all 3, which brings you $27 to $40 for all 3 of those games. As far as should you back or should you not, will hold its value, almost certainly not on the holding its value. Going back to Button Shy, these games in general, the smaller box games have a very hard time holding their value on the second-hand market if they're not games that work for you. On the other hand, similar to Button Shy games, if you want to get your hands on them, this is likely the best way to simply guarantee getting your hands on them as far as general access, but less likely to hold its value. Moving on to Earth Under Siege Flashpoint Replay plus Nemesis Expansion, $142,000 raised, 777 backers, 10 days left to go on this reprint and expansion for Earth Under Siege Flashpoint, an excellent stealth-based skirmish dungeon crawler-esque game. Not skirmish, ignore skirmish. A stealth-based dungeon crawler game coming to you from Dark Horizon Games. The general idea over here is you're going to be trapped in, well, space over here, going through these, tackling these various enemies as you invade their bases and try to get one over them through, well, basically utilizing your tools, your advantages. There's a lot of different things that are very focused on, well, stealth as well as the combat aspects. You're going to have 6 actions a turn, but you only get 3 actions back each turn, so you have to choose when you're pacing yourself out, when you're trying to recover those actions versus when you're going to go ahead and go all in and expend yourself a little further to get more done, but at the cost of then living on the edge the entire time until you can safely find a way to pace yourself, which already I love that mechanic. In general, you're going to have to pace yourself very well around revealing the enemies, because reveal things too soon and you will be in trouble. But you will eventually have to do something, well, usually you have to do something that reveals the enemies, that reveals yourself to the enemies and makes it so that they're coming at you guns blazing, but again, the further off you can hold that, the better off you'll be. But combine that with unique characters, tons of cards, and well, now an expansion expansion as well, and you have a whole lot of gameplay over here. Speaking of the expansion, what's in the Nemesis box? We have two main things over here. The Nemesis, what's in the Nemesis box? There we go. What's new in the Nemesis expansion? We have enhanced mini-bosses, so the mini-bosses from the original campaign will gain unique miniatures and a full Overlord dashboard, so you also get new tiles for them. And then we have the Nemesis mode, which is kind of a boss battler. It turns Earth Under Siege from a stealth game into a boss battler where you go through a series of mini-boss battles until you get to the final Overlord battle. So a slightly different adjustment to the core game system, going from stealth to boss battler, but utilizing most of the same mechanics. There's a whole lot of add-ons to go through. I won't be going through all of them. You can check them out individually to see whether you want token upgrades or plastic tokens or sleeve packs and all of that. But as far as the main rewards, we have $270 for the Aegis Pledge. It's going to be all gameplay content, basically for everything over there. We have the Nemesis Pledge, which is giving you $60 for the new content and the upgrade pack for the game. And then we have the Frontline Pledge, giving you the base game if you just want that. And then past that, retailer pledge level. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? Currently, looking at the current secondhand market for this game, I'd say yes. If you look at eBay, there's no sales that I can find on Board Game Geek Marketplace, but if you look on eBay, this one currently, most of the copies sold on eBay have been sold at a very good price point, where the people who backed this game did get their money back and then some. I think I saw one that sold for less, but for the most part, people are able to get their money back. And this game is incredibly well rated right now on Board Game Geek. I think it's coming in at an 8 point something, if I'm not mistaken. And in general, the people who have played this game, myself included, have really enjoyed it. Like, check out the coverage from a variety of creators, from King of Average to, I believe, Chris George covered as well. There's a lot of people playthrough reviews, old new reviews. Yeah, here we go. Stealth Done Right, Earth Under Siege Flashpoint review. There's a lot of different creators who've gotten their hands on this game and covered it, and overall, both from BGG ratings and creator ratings, it is very well rated. And again, so far, at least on the current secondhand market, it is holding its value. So as far as should you back, should you not, will it hold its value? I'd say it's pretty safe. Prices have gone up since the original campaign. That's the one asterisk. And then as usual, there's never a guarantee down the road for a second print run. But based on what I'm seeing right now, I'd say most of your money is probably safe if you back this and it's a game that's not for you. Moving on, we have D-Day Dice Pacific. 633 backers, $72,000 raised, 10 days to go. D-Day Dice Pacific has the, D-Day Dice in particular has the claim to fame of being the most funded crowdfunded board game when it first came out, like over 10 years ago, at the time. And that was at the time. Since then, things have definitely eclipsed it, but at the time, it was the most funded board game at the time, and D-Day Dice Pacific is the newest version of the game, and HR is going to be all the various modular expansions. There's going to be a lot of familiarity to those who have played the game already, but this is a new streamlined, tweaked version of the original D-Day Dice, still giving you that solo and cooperative play that the game is famous for. Moving on, well, as far as pledge levels, let's go through the game itself. So we have D-Day Dice Pacific, we have HR, which is a combined aspect of modules, and then December 5, the D-Day Dice expansion gives you 12 USMC legendary units, which will give you a risk and reward aspect to them, a little bit more things that they can do well, but also a little bit more risk to the characters. The base game is going to run you $56 for the base game. The expansion for the HR is going to run you $81 if you want that, and if you want the all-in, it's going to cost you $112 for the Jarhead, giving you all three expansions as well as those two little mini packs over there. As far as shipping is going to run you, if you go to shipping, it's going to run you 18 pounds on top of that, which means you are looking at around $135-ish to get all of that stuff for if you want absolutely everything. As far as should you back it, should you not, will its value, it's hard to say on these. In general, D-Day Dice way back in the day actually did incredibly good at holding its value. Like way back when it first came out, like I remember like this game when it first came out, it was impossible to get your hands on it, everyone wanted it, and it was very, very expensive. But then since then, it's gone down significantly. In general, I find that D-Day Dice no longer holds its value in the secondhand market the way it once did, which makes sense to an extent. You know, it is a system that has continuously been in print in different forms, again and again with different crowdfunding campaigns, but overall, you still are able to get a good chunk of your money if it doesn't work for you, but it definitely has gone significantly down from the original days where people are paying through the nose. If you wanted like the original Captain's Pledge or Surgeon's Pledge, I don't even remember what it was, that cost you a pretty penny way, way, way back in the day. But that's way back in the day, and now much less so. Moving on, we have Kaiser Cucumber's 3-Night Heist, a card game and RPG. 103 backers, $7,700 raised, 11 days to go. Coming to you from Sepiyun from Fight in a Box Games. This is, well, a card game of giving you a 3-night heist. Across 3 rounds of play, you are trying to get away with all the goods, and you have your own little mastermind as far as the things you're trying to do, the characters you want to get away, the characters you want apprehended, and then the remaining characters as well. And you're trying to place cards down into a grid, a shared grid with the other players, as you try to to figure out who's going to be caught, who's going to get apprehended, but also as you use the abilities on each card. You see each card has a color and then an ability. The color matters as far as your goals, and the ability matters as far as how you achieve your goals. And so you're trying to figure out when to hold on to the right cards for the last minute adjustment to the board as you rotate, flip, stack, and move things around in ways that best serve your personal interests while trying to get in the way of what you think your opponent's interests are, but you don't necessarily know because their mastermind is hidden. That is, until they decide to reveal and flip their mastermind for a one-time ability, well, possibly an ongoing ability. No, one-time abilities over there, and then you're going to reveal, no, ongoing abilities. I think it's ongoing abilities. Anyways, reveal and flip your mastermind in order to go ahead and benefit from that, but the downside of now players know exactly what you're working for, and that can cost you in the game. Anyways, that's the basic idea of the game. There's some mini expansions, there's an RPG, and that's basically what we have. We have the card game for $15, giving you just the card game with any one of a few different covers. We have the RPG for $18, then we have the card game plus the mini expansions for $23, and then you have the full game plus rulebook for $37, and then the all RPGs ins for $45. All arcade games are full card game plus all RPG designs for $69. The collector's tile edition is going to be fully acrylic, a giant stack over here, as opposed to a small little 18 cards. You're getting a whole bunch of acrylic tiles for $80, and then $120 for nearly everything, and then basically everything for $450. Lots and lots of pledge levels for this option over here. 4 people have that, which is pretty impressive over there. Anyways, that is basically that. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, less likely on the holding its value part. In general, small box games do have a harder time pulling the value on the secondary market. But yeah, if you want to guarantee access, similar to the Grail games in the Casinopolis, if you want to guarantee access to this is often the best way to do so. If you are looking at holding its value, less likely to do so. Moving on to Massive Darkness 2 Dungeons of Shadowreach. $1 million raised, 5,000 backers, 11 days to go. This is, well, the newest Massive Darkness. It's a Dungeons of Shadowreach continuing on from the Massive Darkness 2 system, but with a new theme as well as new characters, as well as difficulty modifications. You can check out my full review for my full thoughts on it if you want that, but the very short version is this is new theme, new characters to play as, new enemies, bosses, items, and all of that, and then the main mechanical difference is going to be different difficulty modifications. In fact, do they have an aspect of what's new? Welcome to the dungeon. No. Uninspired Dungeon Shadowreach. Maybe they do. I don't know. I know they had something. They had something as far as what's new, but I don't remember where it is on the page, and it's not clearly listed out. We have the various characters, new challenges. Here we go. So yeah, so it shows you all the new characters. It talks about the new challenges over here, things that will adjust the difficulty of the game if you want to adjust the difficulty of the game, which is one of the complaints I had in my original review, that I felt the game was a little too easy, and so I do appreciate these difficulty adjustments. In particular, the enhanced challenges and their harder doors are very nice ways to tweak the difficulty in ways that still keep the game fun and thematic, but also give you more of a challenge to power through as you work your way through the experience. But then past that, there's new characters, new content. There's also a campaign expansion as well if you want to dive into that. So it's basically, it's a dungeon crawler with massively asymmetric characters that all give you a different way to play through their own little unique puzzle with their own little unique mini games of how they operate in this dungeon. So the asymmetric characters are at the core of what makes Massive Darkness very unique and fun to play with. That and the handfuls of dice you'll be rolling as you take on the various monsters and gather all their items and goods. As far as the general pledge levels over here, and this is one, by the way, as a CMON campaign. I will probably be back for this toward the later days. I may or may not do a full should you back it. I'm not yet sure. We'll find out. But for right now, just general coverage in the campaign. We have your starting gear, $110 for all the board game and stretch goals. And we have the Epic Treasure, which is going to be giving you the campaign expansion. Speaking of the campaign expansion, we have the Underspire mode, the campaign expansion, giving you a new character, the Emissary over here, as well as, new mobs and new roaming monsters, new bosses, and then all the components, and then the town dashboard, because as a campaign, you have your town dashboard where you can go ahead and spend things in between sessions as you go through the game. But that's not all. We also have an add-on already. I should go to the rewards and say there's also the Adventurer's Gear for $50 if you want the RPG aspect. I'm less of an RPG player myself, but it's certainly here if you want that. And then as far as the add-ons, we have the crowdfunding exclusive Fire Giant. If you backed the last Massive Darkness campaign, do not buy this because it is free in your pledge already. So this cool little guy over here, or cool big guy, is free for you if you already backed their last campaign. We have a variety of add-ons over here. So we have the stretch goals from the original campaign. We have the class pack, which is a nice fast way of giving you all the various classes, I believe just from the expansions. I don't believe this is the base game, but from the expansions of the original game, if you want all of those accessible to you, well, this gives you an opportunity to get all the classes without having to buy the individual expansions and all the content for them, which is very nice as far as giving people who want to play this game the class variety from the original without having to, well, buy everything in every particular way. I assume they're not doing the base game in order to be fair to retail partners and not undercut the main sales of Massive Darkness, I assume, but I'm not searching on that. Then we have the Train Essentials for $40, and then we have all the stretch goals for $120. But then the expansion over here is the Sunken Temple. The Sunken Temple is going to give you an aquatic aspect to the game, giving you these various aquatic themed mobs, the roaming monster, the dragon turtle, and then the Kraken, which definitely feels aquatically themed in the game, but also giving you all these, well, the aquatic tiles over here. Various water tiles that heroes will have to wade through with more difficulty, while the various monsters and denizens of the dungeon will have less of an issue with them. So that's going to be the crowdfunding exclusive Sunken Temple expansion for $60. And this whole thing is crowdfunding exclusive, so it won't be available as a retail expansion. We'll be back to talk more about this as the campaign goes through. We have all the stretch goals, but again, I'm not going to go through these now because we'll probably do that at a later date. But all the various monsters and heroes and RPG elements all being added to the game, giving you more variations of the current hero classes, more mobs, more bosses, all of that stuff in the game. I actually don't know if there are bosses. There were roaming monsters. Anyways, as far as should you back or should you not, again, we will come back to this closer to the end of the campaign, probably next Monday, unless we do a dedicated should you back it. But for right now, I'll say that in general, Massive Darkness campaigns, love them or hate them, CMON campaigns generally hold their value. There can be exceptions to some of their offshoots. I don't think this is going to be one of the exceptions. I think if you back this game, if it's not for you, this will hold its value on the secondhand market. That is almost always true with these types of games from CMON. They have a very passionate audience of people who back all their games, who like their games. They also have people who are very frustrated with some of the issues, delays, all those things, and of course the miniature bloat and all those. And whichever party you are welcome to your opinion, but if you want to know whether it'll hold its value, it's almost certainly going to be holding its value. Moving on, we have an Age Contrived, Folklore, and Pilgrimage. This is the second last campaign we have today. 1,000 backers, $87,000 raised, 16 days to go. This is the expansion to an Age Contrived, Folklore, and Pilgrimage, giving you basically 3 new things to the game, plus some other stuff, but primarily 3 new things to an Age Contrived. It's going to be you 2 new characters, Kronari and, oh my gosh, I always forget the other guy's name. I can't forget. Another new faction over here, but it gives you 2 new factions, two new characters, not factions, 2 new characters to play as in the game with their own asymmetric abilities that you're going to have in the game. And then you're also going to have the Folklore expansion, which is basically giving you a reason to care more about the map as you wander around and play various cards and benefit from cards that other people, not from cards people played, benefit from other people having gone to locations and sharing that with other players. So it gives you a nice little aspect of reasons to care about the map more. And then it gives you the Pilgrimage module, which is going to be an entire new sideboard in the game, giving you a new way to spend your turns and energy in order to go up on this pilgrimage to get abilities as well as points on the way. That's the basic idea. So 3 different expansion modules, the characters, the pilgrimage, and folklore are the main aspects of the game, as well as like revised player rates and doubling tiles, things, again, assorted other things as well. You can check out my full review of either the base game or the expansion if you want to know my thoughts on it, but past that, as far as the pledge levels go, you're going to have $49 for the core folklore and pilgrimage, you're going to have $79 of the Folklore and Pilgrimage Collector's Edition, and then you'll have the $109 for the base game plus expansion, and then $169 for the base game plus expansion and the Collector's Mode instead. That's going to be the main aspects you have over there as far as pledge levels, and then shipping, you have this whole table for the breakdown, going from 15 to 25, depending on which of those tiers you are getting. As far as should you back it, should you not, will hold its value. And I didn't really cover what Age Contrived does. It's hard to kind of distill what an Age Contrived does into any short form anything, but the basic idea is you are trying to build up your tableau in the game as you try to manage your energy, manage your personal player board, and figure out how to expend energy to build various monuments and do a whole lot of other things in the game. It's not the simplest game. Like they talk about how, what do they talk about? They say, investing 1 play's worth of learning, you'll discover opportunities to build a satisfying engine and create clever combos. And that's, I'd say, from my own experience, I'm not going to comment on others, from my own experience, I'd say that the first game I played, way back when I covered the original prototype, the first game I played of an Age Contrived was definitely the full-on learning game. Like, I had no idea what was happening until I played a full game, and I was like, okay, now it all makes sense to me. And the downside is, and this does reflect in the ratings, unfortunately, like there's a lot of ratings on this game are not positive, but the reviewers are a little more positive, and there are 2 ways to look at that. Way 1 is, oh, those reviewers, they're corrupt and they're just trying to get free games. Way 2 is the reviewers usually are more incentivized to play a game multiple times in order to have a more nuanced opinion, and this is very, very true. And speaking as a gamer, I always used to say, I don't play games a second time. If you can't show me why I should like it after the first play, I'm not investing more time to find out if the second play will change my mind. And as a gamer, that is still something I hold by. So I'm sympathetic to anyone who's like, I just don't want to invest that. As someone who committed to reviewing this, I played it multiple times, and my first play was definitely literally just a learning game to understand how it all came together. My second play was where I was like, okay, I see what's happening. And my third play was where I started to really enjoy the puzzle, because there is a very strong puzzle here, but it does suffer from that accessibility. And this is a game that the tricky part is, even though as a reviewer I've come to appreciate it, there's still the balance and the downside downside of exposing the game to new players in your game group and having to go through that challenge, which does make this a much harder game to table, unfortunately. So both things are true. This is one that I both recommend, but I also recommend it more so with the more so towards a game group that plays the same games again and again, as opposed to a game group that likes to dabble in a lot of things, and this might not see 3 plays in a given year. So that's kind of where I am on an age Contrived overall. Anyways, that is basically that. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value. Unfortunately, as I kind of talked about already, the Board Game Geek ratings on this have definitely not great, and the second-hand market reflects that. People can get this game for half the price of what they paid for it, and that means that your pledge likely will not hold its value. There's just not enough demand for it. The people who love it, love it. Again, you can check out the BG ratings, people who are very into it, but it does seem like people are bouncing off on it hard initially because it's a bunch of things thrown together in a way that doesn't reveal the strategy and depth to it until you're a few plays in. Anyways, moving on to our last campaign of the day, we have Bullet Cubed, a new expansion and storage box. $278,000 raised, 2,386 backers, 17 days left to go, coming to you from Level 99 Games. Bullet Cubed new expansion and storage box is exactly that. There are new expansions to this game, new promo cards or promo characters, a full new storage solution, as well as an opportunity to get everything for this game. The very short kind of breakdown of what Bullet Cubed is it's a real-time game of rapidly descending bullets into your grid as you try to rearrange, move, and utilize all your abilities to basically manage the bullets flowing into your grid in real time, and then utilizing these various cards to action them off and send them to your opponent to your left, and then pass them on to, I think it's the left if I recall correctly, send them to opponent to one of your sides as you try to overload your overflow bullets into their grid instead. So you're trying to manage, think Tetris, but as you slide and clear a row, your opponent gets it instead, and they have to manage all the goodness you've been dealing with is now on their board instead. There's also robust solo play. In fact, this game is rated almost equally well at 1, 2, and 3 players, and then at 4 players is a slight drop off to the ratings as far as people's opinion of the optimal player count for the game. So it's great for solo, and it's great as a multiplayer experience, depending on what you want to dive into, and there's a ton of content for this game, and now we have the Bullet Cube storage box, giving you the easiest way to manage the storage of all that content. As far as the pledge levels over here for the game, we have the new content pledge for $75, giving you the storage box, 2 new expansions, and the 2 new characters. I think it's characters. Are they characters? The Bullet Indie Showcase and the... I'm not sure if they're characters or not. Playable game board. It might not be characters. They've had expansion characters or promo characters. I'm not sure what those are over there. We have the core pledge for $35. We have $199 for the gameplay all in, as well as the storage box. So this is going to give you, does it give you the storage box? Yeah, it does. It does give you the storage box as well. So I say that specifically because technically gameplay all in wouldn't include the storage box, but their gameplay all in does include the storage box. So take that for whatever you want over there. And then outside of that, they have All Things Bullet for $400. This gives you a whole lot of extras from various vinyl record OSTs to gaming mats to playing cards, a ton of things you do not need if you're not focusing on the gameplay aspect of this game. So this is basically All Things Bullet for $400 and the gameplay all in for $291, the base game for $35, and then of course the new content for $75. Past that, they have the various add-ons for all the various individual breakdowns of any of the things you want, both gameplay related and non-gameplay related if you want to dive into that. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, the base idea of Bullet is a little trickier. Oh, and by the way, I will say, one thing you possibly do want, do they actually have in the gameplay all in? I don't actually know. I hope they have it. They might not, though. Do they have the wooden bullets? They do not. So the one expansion thing I would add, the one non-gameplay thing I would recommend adding if you don't care about non-gameplay stuff, is the deluxe wooden bullets. That adds a nice premium feel to the game. I definitely recommend that. The good news is, even if you don't care about all the extras, you can still get the gameplay all in, as well as individually choosing those wooden bullets down here. So for $25, those wooden bullets really add a nice heft to these bullets that you're managing. Instead of tokens, you have nice chunky pieces instead. As far as should you back or should you not will hold its value, this game has strong retail presence and a lot of constant reprints. In general, I'd say there's not enough reason to back most of the stuff. The tricky part is it's a big box, and big boxes are always harder to navigate because their retail presence tends to be much worse. So I'd say as far as just the gameplay content on its own, just get the stuff at retail, the cheapest price point, whenever it's on sale. That's your best option overall. But as far as the big box, those things are trickier to predict around, especially as far as retail availability goes. So I'd put that in the, if it's not going to be available in other forms, I think it will hold its value because I think this is a popular enough game and people will want to get their hands in it. But if it is going to be available, then less so. So definitely in the risk category, depending on the options and accessibility of getting your hands on that storage box outside of this campaign. And that is basically everything we have for today, which means it's time for our picks of the week. As usual, picks of the week have two different things. We have the game that I think is the best time to back or get or whatever it is, meaning getting it on crowdfunding would be the best way to get the game if you want it, based on the aftermarket, availability, second-hand market, all of those things. And then we have my personal interest pick of the week, the game that I am most personally interested in. For my value pick of the week, we are going to go with Massive Darkness. Even though it's not doing as well as I would have thought, it definitely is a decline in backers from the first campaign, and some of that's just the general campaign bloat that it's getting harder and harder to push people into these big box experiences, not to mention this frustration with Simon around White Death and the delays over there, and it has a lot of people being very, like, I'm in the camp of, like, whatever, I'll get my game with all the goodies whenever, I'm not in a rush, but there's a lot of people who are in a rush, and they have a right to be in a rush, and so there's a lot of backer frustration around this. This campaign's definitely doing much worse than I would have expected because of, well, all those things, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, I still think this will hold its value. This will almost certainly hold its value in the second-hand market, and so this is still the value pick of the week. As far as my personal interest pick of the week, I'm going to go with A Place for All My Books. I haven't played this yet, so it definitely is in that caveat area that maybe it'll be too light for me, I don't know, but again, I know people who have played it and have enjoyed it, and thematically this is delightful. There's very few good book-themed games out there, and I don't mind lighter games per se. The question to me is there's lighter games done right, and there's lighter games done wrong. I don't know where this will be, but I will say this is the game that I am most interested from all the campaigns on the table today. Anyways, that is basically everything. Until, no, we have one more thing. We have upcoming campaigns. Upcoming campaigns, we have a few things over here. We have, first of all, we have Terminus Frontier, launching tomorrow, 4,000 backers, and another big box exploration, cooperative board game, tactical squad, all of that. That's going to be Terminus Frontier. And then we also have, coming up after that, we have, where's my mouse cursor over here? We have Fate Forge, Chronicles of Khan, launching as well tomorrow. The expansion and reprint to Fate Forge from Mighty Boards. And then that's what we have launching tomorrow. Which means, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one. I bought a sweater the other day from Kohl's, and the only problem is every time I put it up, it just was crackling with static electricity. Like, I just couldn't wear it. It just, every single time it would shock me. And so I returned it to the store, and they gave me another one with no charge.